engineering. He is working in Independent University, Bangladesh. He received his PhD degree in Computer Science and Engineering in 2009 and from the South Korea, and from BSc Computer Science and Information Technology from Islamic University of Technology, Bangladesh in 2003. His in his academic career, he worked a faculty member at a CSC department in Southeast University, Bangladesh from 2015 to 2020, Computer Science Department. International Islamic University, Malaysia, he was from the during 2010 to 15. He's received a several award, guest paper award, publication in the areas. He has delivered over 20 keynotes and invited speech as various international conferences, events, and he served as a journal chair, organizing committee member, and technical committee member in the numerous top-ranked international conferences, workshops like Infocom, Globcom, LCN, Greencom, WCM's IEEE, VTC. He was awarded the IEEE Outstanding Leadership Award for his role of IEEE Greencom 13 conference. He is currently serving as a editor-in-chief of International Journal of Computer Science and Application, Taylor and Francis, UK, and editor of Ad hoc and Sensor Wireless Network, Old City Publishing, International Journal of Network, Indus Science Publisher, and Malaysian Journal of Computer Science, Associate Editor of Connection Science, Taylor Francis, UK. So he is a two. He have a publication in that lots of publication, and he is the editor of 22 books. So we are welcome to you, sir. So kindly, sir, you have to start the session so that
Okay.
our research scholars, our UG PG students have get then how they can write it a good public research paper. Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let me share my screen. Um, can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's fine. So audio, video, everything's working fine. So let's go to the presentation. So it's coming full screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's straight go into the topic today. Um, as you know, today's title of the presentation is Key Factors to Know for Quality Publications. And this is actually, I saw the entire schedule. There are lots of speakers and they'll be talking about different aspects. And I think there will be some overlapping of contents. Um, it's fine, but as in research field, as we feel that there could be different perspectives from different angles and different people have different ideas. So this is definitely from my own understanding of the entire thing, and we'll be basically checking both paper writing style, some key tips, and also some factors that even established researchers sometimes do not properly know, or they have questions and they have no answers. So we will try to go through all these questions, and probably we can then share our ideas as well. So first thing is, I think I'll get maximum 1 hour, maybe 40 minutes would be enough. Um, so first thing is the term quality itself is kind of very confusing. If you go to the people of different sets and different styles and different lifestyles, different ways of thinking, there's no real standard definition of quality. And this is a fact that what is a quality material to somebody may not be quality material to another one. So this is the fundamental principle of this entire discussion. So what I mention as a quality may not be considered as a quality material for somebody else. So what we need to do is we have to come to some common platform where we would be given some common understanding of the quality the term quality. Then we will talk about the key factors for quality publications and some of the things that transcends all over the places, irrespective of your location or type of work and your own stature. So those who are familiar with software engineering field, especially, you might have had seen similar viewpoints that I actually borrowed from that field, software engineering. And some of these views are also relevant to our today's discussion. So we'll just go one by one. Pragmatic views of quality, when we see from tactical point of view, there could be mainly five perspectives. Number one is transcendental view. Transcendental view, which is defined as it is something that you immediately recognize but can't explain or explicitly define. So it's like whenever you see something, you know that there is some inherent quality or something you feel that this is really a good material, but you can't actually explain what is outstanding in that particular item or content. Even among human beings, when you interact with somebody for the first time, when you interact in person and also in other platforms, then just by uh, some interaction and words, you may understand a person's moral standard, some integrity issues. So this is called transcendental view. For instance, among human beings, we see, for example, the trustworthiness and honest speaking and truthfulness. So similar things could be inside the research papers as well when we see it from transcendental view of quality. There is another view that is user view. It sees quality in terms of an end user's specific goals. If met, that's quality. For instance, if somebody's target is to get, for instance, the promotion in particular department, if he or she wants to get a promotion to the next rank, and his department head or dean says, if you just meet this goal, if you publish a journal paper, you will get the next rank, or I would recommend for that thing, or include my name, and you get that thing. So it could be also a material of quality when that view is considered. The end user gets his or her specific goal met, and that's a quality for him or her for the next step. Likewise, manufacturer's view, it defines quality in terms of original specification of a product. Like when some work is first launched, there could be some specific objectives and some specifications to met or meet. In that case, that is called manufacturer's view. When the paper is ready, you say that I basically followed all the steps and did these experiments, and that's the view from the manufacturer or writer or author. Likewise, product view, it suggests that quality can be tied to inherent characteristics of a product. This is also very important because sometimes you see two papers from two different publications. Just by seeing the content, you have some idea. It's not really transcendental, but the product itself speaks for itself. So look and feel. Likewise, value-based view, this is when it measures quality based on how much a customer is willing to pay for a product. For instance, if you are in some university, like in IIM Malaysia, they have, during that time when I worked there, 2010, 2015, they had some publication incentive. For instance, if you publish in some Scopus Index journal, then you get a certain amount of publication incentive or some amount of money. Then SCI journals, and based on the level of the journal or publication, they pay you something. So how much that is paid for, or how much value that is given for your promotion and for your academic rank or your career in other places. So these are generally, if you see, these are from software engineering perspective when a product is considered. Same idea we can bring for our quality publications case as well. So to understand quality, we see that the quality varies and categories come out from that. And reality would be that all these are important to consider. If we take all these things, and there could be overlappings, not all these things can be met for a particular publication, but overall, if we address all these issues, we consider that as a quality publication. Same rule applies here, even for journals and conferences. In this particular presentation, we will be basically talking about the journal publications because when it comes to the conference, it's very volatile. And nowadays, in this pandemic situation, lots of things went for online settings, and things are basically not of that standard that we applied before. And also, conference involves lots of monetary issues. There could be high registration fees and things. Also, for journals, there are paid journals, non-paid journals. Uh, we'll talk about all these things. But the reality is, what we need in all these things is we have to have some kind of standard body, agent, institution, or authority. So if we keep this in mind, if we have a particular seal or some kind of tag or label that defines our qualities, like standard or the work's quality, in that case, we can consider that if I publish a paper in such and such journal, then we can consider that as a quality publication. Now, research publications basically could be of uh, two types from two angles. Both angles would have two types. Main types would be academic research and industrial research. We are mainly in the academia, so we know that academic research is quite different than the industrial research. In case of industrial research, you will find very few publications, and often this is about the company's secret. There could be a new revolutionary engine design, or there could be a new technology that they actually want to make money out of. Then they would not publish those things in public sphere like academic people usually do. So industrial research is quite different. When they publish something, they don't give all the technical details. Yeah, like for instance, the Tesla cars. This is a different field, like Samsung, KT. We worked with some of those companies during our South Korea time. Especially my projects were funded, and many of their things cannot be simply claimed for publication for formal things, and sometimes they go for just patent so that it can generate more money. There's no paper work that is published. Other way that we can categorize all these things could be fundamental or theoretical research and applied research. Now, fundamental research, how to define fundamental? This is a question for many researchers. Fundamental research is something that has implication on many fields. There is nothing that's like very specific or shallow case, but for instance, certain improvement of something affects many fields. For instance, if somebody comes up with a good battery design, nowadays we have lots of handheld devices, mobile phones, laptops, and lots of battery usages are there. There is lithium-ion battery and all these things from electrical field. For instance, if somebody comes up with a better design of battery, uh, that could be used for many other fields, like in car battery system or for other device system. So, or for instance, a fundamental research could be the invention of electricity, for instance. It has lots of implications. Sometimes it could be pure theoretical research, fundamental research. For instance, E equal to mc square by Albert Einstein. In that case, that is not for a specific thing, but maybe atomic bombs, atom bombs, or whatever you call, that can be produced by using that formula, that simple mathematics and equations. But on the other hand, applied research is something that is practical, that could be having a practical impact right now. For instance, you develop a particular software, and these are sometimes called like technical project. As a part of a large work, there could be fundamental or theoretical parts, and then applied research could have a particular area, like the students implement something, and that could be recorded as a separate publication as well. Sometimes these could be combined, but in academia, there is some direct link with fundamental or theoretical research. So we are not expected to do some kind of applied research. In fact, I worked with Mimos Barhad in Malaysia. Mimos is Malaysia's National Research Institute. And if you work with them, for instance, they need very practical outputs. Like, what is your output that has to have some kind of commercial uh, impact? Otherwise, they would not consider that as a viable research for their institution. So, academic research perhaps sometimes could be linked with industrial research, but often they would laugh at your idea. This is simply as the famous example is given, or famous or whatever, if you know. For instance, if you have a TV and that TV is not working right now, and you have three options outside the door, there's one technician, there's one scientist, and one engineer. So to whom you go with the TV? Usually people go to the technician, says, fix my TV and I'll give you some money. The technician makes quick money, and then you get it done within 3 days, 1 week, whatever. An IC should be replaced or whatever. He gives you the solution. But if you go to the engineer, even if he's a professor teaching cathode ray tube uh, TV mechanism, or maybe LCD display TV. In that case, that guy can say, just leave it with me, maybe 1 month or whatever. I have students, they can work on this thing. If we can fix, let us see. But if you go with the same TV to the scientist who is working on the fundamental or theoretical aspects of TV, probably he would be unable to fix it in his entire lifetime. Why? Because the applied knowledge is not there, like the technician. He doesn't make quick money. But the scientist actually sees the problem from the angle that if this problem is here, let me devise a new kind of design or some theoretical base that may be a reality 5 years, 10 years, 20 years later, and then it will have the impact. And that scientist can make low money for that time being. So my understanding is, because I worked in South Korea, Malaysia, now I am in Bangladesh. So my understanding is those societies that pay the top producers, the scientists, the high level salaries, or they value them, they are actually industrially or technologically very sound and strong. If you go for the applied or technician level, we get the countries like Bangladesh. I can say, especially for India, India may have both types, but sometimes you feel that this is a technician's country. Like, they fix the things, they know new technologies, they are constantly updating those things, but they cannot come up with a new theoretical idea that can have impact for 5 years, 10 years, and 10, 20 years later. So there's a fundamental issue. When we talk about quality publications, we have to see how much impact that can make after some years, not right now. Somebody can come up with a nice, what to say, very good software, how to deal with this COVID-19 pandemic, the contact tracing application, all these things. Once this thing is done, that would quickly lose the value. Probably for the next pandemic, that could be used. But if you have a fundamental change of concept, like the contact tracing application that can be used for mobile phone tracking and who came into contact with each other, that particular theoretical idea was brought by somebody, and he is given or she is given the credit for that theoretical idea. This is not the applied thing unless you have the application implemented. So this is what we focus on whenever we say fundamental and theoretical research, and plus academic research and quality research. We measure the strength of this fundamental academic research. That's the essence of quality. So far, we understand. So, how many publications do you see for the industry from the industry? Publication is only one several criteria, but it does not prove that someone is a quality researcher. Why I mention this thing? Uh, if you have any question, if I think at the end of the presentation we will have some queries. No, my problem. Is there any problem? No problem. Okay. Okay. So give me some audio. I think all other participants should be muted for better
Yes,
presentation.
sir. Yes, sir. I mute all the participants. Kindly continue, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So publication is only one several criteria, but it does not prove that someone is a quality researcher because there are instances when people basically publish things just based on some others' brain. They pay and then they get the publication. So when you also consider somebody's research achievements, you have to see how somebody thinks. So if we consider the quality of journal papers, there are instances you see that good quality papers go into the good quality journals or bad quality journals. On the other hand, bad quality paper could be in good journals, bad journals. From journals angle, good journal publishes bad quality papers, bad journal publishes good quality papers. So it can be in any direction. So our point is when we talk about quality publications, how do we measure good or bad? And once again, as we so far have come to this point, there could be different views. Still, we would have some standard bodies that can define what is good and what is bad. And these are the questions that we must answer. Like, can quality vary? Yes, it can. Who decides what quality journal is? So that's one factor. We talked about some standard body, and that definition or level or tag can be considered as quality. What is the standard for paper? What is the standard for journal? For journal case, quality may be also sometimes audience dependent. When the audience doesn't know what somebody is considering as quality, then that's the thing. Like he doesn't have or they don't have the idea of the outside world. So something that is considered quality here may not be quality elsewhere. It's similar to the measurement of like people say beauty. Beauty cannot be just measured on one scale. Sometimes you find in one country they have one perspective, in another country there is another perspective. So this thing can also be also based on the audience. Time dependent, like you can have a very good research paper, good research idea, but if you don't publish it in time, then it can lose appeal. For instance, at the end of this pandemic, if somebody comes up with COVID-19 related healthcare research, and that gives some very solid measurement data statistics of the initial 3 months, then that would be automatically useless data at the time. So time dependent quality is also there. Plus place dependent, where you consider the qualities, where you carry out your research. For instance, a simple understanding would be if a very good scientist from North Korea or let's say Iran comes up with a very revolutionary idea. For instance, the nuclear scientist in North Korea comes up with a new mechanism of making bomb or whatever. The US guys, when they are the hostile label givers or tag givers, or they are the standard bodies, they would not ever recognize that particular research. That's a fact. So place dependent quality is also there. Like Iranians, the North Koreans, they can have, or Chinese, they can have their own quality standards. They don't basically go with those standard bodies. So you see that entire thing could be very volatile. When we consider the key factors of quality publications, we don't have a particular standard that we can in general follow. But still, we have to find out something with a balance. So that thing we will be talking about. Another thing is, it has happened in the past that the standard body itself may shift its stance on a journal or publication. For instance, LNCS, lecture notes in computer science. I remember in 2005 when I went to South Korea, my professor uh, told me to publish at least two LNCS papers. That was the requirement for the MS PhD. But later on, LNCS basically was not indexed anymore. After 2006, I think they took out the name from SCIE index database, the indexing, and eventually it fell from its quality level. And this thing happens for many other journals, like journals can be retracted from the index database or indexing database. And later on, we were given the target like two SCI journals or one SCI and two SCIE journals should be published. So there are lots of things going on. When we talk about like for India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, you can say the Indian subcontinent, we have a place and time. We can say we don't have our own standard. So for our case, it can be definitely different for others. Like Europeans can have their own standards. We, in general, globally, especially for us, this is more applicable. Currently, we consider Clarivate Analytics, which was formerly considered or called as Thomson Reuters, or ISI, Institute for Scientific Information. Uh, Excuse me, there is some announcement going on here, maybe because of COVID-19, they are actually making some announcement about maybe sample collection or whatever, because recently there's some case here. Okay, from the government, somebody is actually making the sound. Some miking is going on. Anyway, so uh, anyway, we have the Clarivate Analytics. This is one standard body. Then comes Scopus, Elsevier. Others are also available, but not be credible. You can check the master journal list here. This link still works. And Scopus index journal list can be found here. So in one sense, we can mention that if you publish a paper in any of these journals, that's the quality. This could be one understanding. And among these, there could be different quality levels like SCI, SCI, SSCI. Nowadays, we have ESCI, and there is a debate whether this is lower than Scopus or not. So, what is the difference between SCI and SCI? Many researchers do not know. Um, Excuse me, just some sound pollution here. So, even if I have shut down all the windows, still the sound is coming. It's really making a noise here, very loud. Okay,
But sir, there is a no any disturbance. You can continue, sir.
okay. I think this is actually here, like from the government, they are announcing something about COVID-19 or something,
No issues,
uh,
sir. So you can continue.
like lockdown or whatever. Okay, it's stopped down. So, what is the difference between SCI and SCI? SCI and SCI. That's one thing many researchers do not know. And if you want to publish quality journals, then it should be known. So, we'll talk about this thing. Clarivate Analytics (JCR) basically is a systematic approach of evaluating all the world journals. Commonly, this is termed as Web of Science or WOS. All the peer-reviewed journals are inside. By compiling articles cited references, JCR helps measure research influence and impact at the journal and category levels, shows the relationship between citing and cited journals. So there is a term that we learned so far, that is the impact. I think some other speakers are also talking about this thing, but how to measure this IF and how to measure it, whether this is reliable or not, that we will also talk about. let's see the difference between SCI and SCIE. SCI is basically the bigger or the larger database in the past. Nowadays we have the expanded, that is the larger one. SCI came up in 1964. It basically evaluated lots of journals, basically the scientific journals, and put inside this SCI database. Nowadays, we have 5,600 journals across more than 150 scientific disciplines. One criterion for SCI indexing is that your journal must be with non-zero impact factor. Non-zero impact factor means it cannot be uh, like without impact factor. It can be indexed, but there may not be impact factor. Those are included inside the SCIE or the expanded database. So expanded database uh, is consisted of 8,500 notable journals, 150 disciplines. Once again, from 1900 to present. So all the journals related to science and technology with rigorous selection process are included here. And SCI journals may not have any impact factor. That's the key difference. And this is the larger database, the SCI, and SCI is the older and shorter or smaller database compared to SCI. Now, if you go to South Korea, there in Kyung University and the Seoul National University, they have their requirement for PhD. You have to publish SCI journal, not SCI. One SCI must be there for your PhD. That's how they measure the quality. Because why this is actually difficult, more difficult than these SCIs. Sometimes SCI journals can have more impact factors now than the SCI journals, but still, as SCI came before, this is valued in all over the globe, more or less, unless something is hostile to US standards and things. Now, there's another indexing database recently came that is ESCI. Probably you've heard about this thing. It came from 2015, added over 7,800 titles with back files dating back to 2005. Now, is ESCI is with Scopus. Some people consider Scopus as the second level after SCI, SCI. But what happens is ESCI is actually not a database that would allow impact factor to be associated with the journals. But what it does, it basically the citations will be included in journal citation report. It feeds the SCI index journals. Like citation report would be recorded, but ESCI journals would basically help the SCI journals indexing and their categories. So in some way, it's lower than the Scopus. And Scopus is the Elsevier's own abstract and citation database, launched in 2004. It covers that many titles, and it's one of the largest, if not the largest, one of the largest, if not the largest, indexing databases in the globe. And this not only includes the journals, it also indexes books and trade journals. Like trade journal means some company brochures, company related industry publications, those things. So which one is better? Usually people consider Scopus is much better than ESCI, and you can have your own view. So when we talk about the quality, one simple measure is go for SCI publication, SCI publication, or Scopus, or minimum ESCI. But this is the problem, how to publish in these things. We'll talk about these things later. But before that, uh, impact factor is one issue that uh, many people ask what this is about. In a given year, the impact factor of a journal is the average number of citations received per paper published in that journal during the two preceding years. For instance, if a journal has an impact factor of 3 in 2020, then its papers published in 2018 and 2019 received 3 citations each on average. So that's the simple method. There's an equation. You can check this particular link, and there is also official link as well. But this is the issue. Manipulation, misuse possible? Of course, possible. I actually came into contact with lots of SCI and SCA journals. Uh, they ask for specific citation of reference. When, like, I'm holding the editor-in-chief position of some journal, if this is a suggestion, like you can look into the recent publications and cite some of these papers to link your work with those publications in the recent time, this is fine. But when somebody gives you a list of papers that you have to cite at least three or two, uh, that I also observed, that is actually manipulation. And many editor-in-chiefs, by pressure from the publishers, can do that. So impact factor, sometimes you see impact factor 10, 11. It may not be the actual impact, but it's like manipulated impact. That's why some researchers do not just go for the impact factor based journals. So is it actually right or reflecting the true quality? Perhaps not always. So what actually makes the journal quality journal or the publication quality journal or publication is a quality publication? One factor you have to see is how the editorial board is formed, their profiles, how they work, their work ethics. So many issues are here. It's not that straightforward. If I say how to publish and what are the key factors for quality publications, we will just have one definition and one view. So here's the thing: is that the quality measurement finished? No, because a journal may be a very new one, like newly launched. If you see some of the strong publications from IEEE and Elsevier, they are very uh, established publishers, or Taylor and Francis. They can have a very new journal, and that could have a very high standard. The editorial boards can be formed with very qualified uh, people, but unless you have the completed 2 year period, at least 2 years to check the impact or number of citations in other index journals, you cannot measure that journals or that publications quality or that the impact in the actual research arena. So a journal may not have been also recommended for indexing. Yes, someone needs to put it forward for consideration in most of the cases. Otherwise, the indexing services, they do not by themselves approach you. This is one thing to know. So there are issues. There could be very good journal that can be indexed 2 years later, but right now it's not considered as an index journal. But that could be a very high quality journal, and that could be also high quality publication. So these are the random issues that you have to consider. So the point is your paper still could be a quality paper, but you may choose a below standard journal to publish it either by mistake. Some people do not know enough, they haven't thought enough, and maybe you want to publish it quickly. Sometimes ACI, ACA journals can take 6 months to 1 year, sometimes 1.5 years if you go through the revisions. I have like experience of like 2 years. It took three revisions, then eventually it was accepted. So some people do not like to go for long time, and they can go for lower category journals and still find publication, timely publication, because that also defines the quality. Other factors could be supervisor's choice. If somebody is working as a PhD student, hidden agenda, there could be some issues. Somebody has conflict with somebody else on the board. Less courageous, somebody can be unable to measure the level of his or her own work. So there could be other factors that can also define what quality you consider. Yes, it has happened that many good works got rejected, but later became something revolutionary. Let me give you a practical example. Here is the letter that was attributed to Albert Einstein. If you see this letter, it's very interesting because what happened is during that time he wrote an article, and he didn't have enough knowledge about the peer reviewing process, that your paper goes to somebody and he checks and comments on that thing, and based on the comments something is accepted. He thought that he just sends the publication, the paper to the editor, and the editor will simply publish. So he wrote this thing. We, whatever, he and Mr. Rosen had sent you our manuscript for publication, had not authorized you to show it to a specialist or to specialists before it is printed. I see no reason to address the in whatever is written in English at the time by him. Any case, erroneous comments of your anonymous expert on the basis of this incident, I prefer to publish the paper elsewhere, respectfully. So that's the thing. So Einstein was basically not familiar with the peer review process, and even he became very indignant, you see, angry when he got the rejection, and that paper basically became revolutionary later on. So it can be that some people can have a very good quality paper. Either they could be not that much knowledgeable at that particular time, or they may not have the enough access to other information, how things are evaluated. And it had happened also for the famous scientists and those people who contributed to certain fields. So that's the thing. You have to know that always your work could be still good. And let's see how we think about different types of writings and words. There are mainly three approaches. One is get something, find flaw, correct it, and then go for enhancement. This is called incremental research. You have one idea, then you find a flaw, correct this one, go for enhancement, publish. Second one is get idea from paper A, paper B, combine them, make a paper, and prove that the product C is better than A, better than B. This is another approach. The third approach is come up with a solution to a problem that nobody thought of before, some revolutionary way. This approach is difficult because this is called novel research. Whenever we use the term novel, we look for something that nobody thought before. Nowadays, if you see the research papers, many people use this term novel very easily, that a novel approach. But technically, novel has some connotation, some inherent meaning that it has to be something that nobody thought about before. So which one is the easiest? The second one is easiest. Get a paper A, B, combine them, make a paper C, show that this is better than A, better than B, and that's one easy way of publication. But easiest is not the best for being a quality journal paper or conference paper, whatever you say. These are the questions you have to answer when you write a research paper. What is the topic? Do you have any problem formulation? Is it worthy of stirring the intelligent minds? Has anybody touched on or addressed this issue? How is your work contributing something to the research community? Do you have any proof or just claim? Claim-based papers are also available, especially in mathematical fields. There could be conjectures and there could be some problems thrown theoretically. If you prove it not right, then this is another publication. If you cannot prove, then that stays, that claim. So that kind of papers are also available, not in every field, but in scientific arena, that is also one thing. Like in graph theory, you can have similar publications. Now, for writing style, one key issue is there is no alternative to good English handling skill. And this may be natural, maybe, or get help from others if possible. And if your spoken English is good, writing is totally different. So when you write something, there could be one approach is you can control the reviewer's mind, or when the reviewer reads that thing, probably he is thinking something and he would have a pre-concept or pre-understanding before reading the paper, just reading your title and abstract. So how you control the mind of the reviewer, what is to come next, and how you surprise the reviewer, this is all about writing skill. So you can have a very good quality work, but just because of poor presentation, your paper can get a lower grade. This is a fact I actually experienced among my students because I ran research labs. Some people have a very uh, like normal work, but just because of the presentation, it can give a different feelings of quality. This is the general structure of writing. more or less you know this thing. So I'm not going through everything here. These are the introduction, related works, proposal, and this part, this could be either the proof of efficiency, theoretically, performance analysis, simulation, experimental evaluation, testing, and you can have extra added discussion, then conclusions and future work. There is no alternative to good presentation style, neat and clean look, catchy figures. This is one issue I want to share with you. For instance, this is the slide number 20, just to show you what happens. I get lots of different papers. So sometimes the authors are presenting in a way like they have this kind of stretched image, okay? This image and this image, or elongated image. The aspect ratio is broken. When you have nice writing, everything, but when the figure is checked, just based on look and feel, somebody can consider that this is a poor quality paper writing. Why? Because the authors do not know the basic way of presenting. This one is the aspect ratio maintaining image or figure. This one looks bad. This automatically gives you the sense that these authors are not professional, or they have some naivety in their presentation. So this is one issue. Whenever you have nice presentation and even the figures are catchy, sometimes catchy figures can hide your presentations, the writings flaws. This is a fact as well. Now there is one concept that is called A plus, A minus, A plus format. This is the practical issue. First of all, make your ground and give the feelings that, like for instance, a very simple tip is when you write about wireless sensor network, you worked on energy efficiency. In that particular paper, you have to emphasize on that energy efficiency. Don't bring other topics. Like this is one of the key issues. This is the great challenge, and many people are concentrating, or this is the most attractive. This kind of thing. Whenever you work on quality of service, then go for quality of service. So you have to somehow set the goal initially that this is a serious issue, and this is one of the most important, and then we got a solution. So this gives the primary feeling to the reviewer that this is a very important issue to talk about. Then within the main body, you have to come to the A minus attitude, like not so high, come to the reality on the ground. You know that we are the human beings, we cannot solve everything in one thing. So we are short of knowledge. So this is the reality, but this is our proposal. But when you end the paper, then again you have to live with the A plus attitude. Why? Because you have to give some futuristic views, what can impact, uh, what can be impacted with this work. And also, if you find new problems, like you leave something as an open issue, that gives some quality points. So this is one style of writing: A plus, A minus, A plus format. These things you must know. Use the most recent works when you have journal paper reference and conference paper reference. If possible, cite the journal paper reference. Once again, if the journal is non-indexed journal, it's better to avoid that. If you are not sure about the publication's quality, or if the publisher itself is suspicious, these things greatly diminish your uh, paper's quality. If you cite, for instance, International Journal of whatever, so that is published from some unknown journal from publisher from, let's say, Kerala, or there are lots of publication companies nowadays, and sometimes online journals, they claim that impact factors 35 whatever, Google Scholar, this thing, these are not recognized. So in that case, if you have a conference version of the same journal paper, and that conference is at least IEEE or ACM Springer, some kind of label is there, then use that one. So choosing your citation, what type of reference you use, that is also very crucial for your paper. Emphasize on what you have accomplished. Why do you think this one is novel contribution? If you have novelty, claim novelty. If you don't have novelty, This is a very critical term that nobody thought about this before. Then, if you don't have, don't use. If you have, claim that one. And try to take the ideas from other field and show how it fits. If you have some knowledge about some other things like implication of other things, recently we worked on some healthcare application for wireless technologies and things, or wireless technology related healthcare monitoring, e-healthcare, and we had to read some COVID-19 related papers from healthcare fields or medical journals. We link those things. That also sometimes improves your contribution because that may have implication then for other fields as well. Some people can also go inside your paper and get some information when the citations are properly provided. And for reference style, make sure always follow the journal's format. This is one crucial thing. Usually the surname comes first, like let's say Omar Saad. In that case, Saad O Saad. This could be the possible things, but this may not be accepted. Once again, when you write the references, I got lots of papers from students. Sometimes they mention the full author names and full things, and next reference is half or partial author names. These are very unprofessional things. So whenever you write a paper, also concentrate on the reference types because these are some key issues that reviewers look into. Reviewers look into any kind of flaw and they try to comment the negative thing. This is the usual attitude. Whoever reads your paper, they will look for some common problems, common flaws, and if something is there, it will downgrade your quality. So check the journal reference, exactly follow, and some time should be spent for this thing. I, in person, whenever cite any paper, I actually manually formulate all the references. Don't use any tool and other things because there could be partial information. And appropriate treatment to every detail of a paper format, like even the margins, the header style, and things. And there's another issue about the acronyms or abbreviation. Even if something is known, like for instance IPv6, first time when it occurs, mention the full elaboration. Then you can use the shortened version. Even if you consider that people, the readers know everything, you have to help the readers because there could be some generic readers on a specific topic. So when something is not recognized, it should be known that it has reason to be not recognized, and this is the reality. Clear, grammar error-free English has no other alternative, and many fail in this point. And same version you can publish from the conference to the journals. Some journals accept this thing for greater visibility and better dissemination. And usually 30% enhancement will be fine, but some journals do not accept this because they can have very specific uh, rules and regulations. And you have to remember that EIC's decision is final in all cases, but conference publications greatly help journal publications. While replying to the reviewers, because we are at the end of the 6 minutes we have, we'll just quickly go. Never show arrogance to the reviewers. When you get the major revision or minor revision, never show off. And there could be sometimes some comments that can really irritate you. It can happen. I got some reply someday from some author, like the author has 25 years of experience and he's working on this thing. This kind of sentence must not be written in a reply letter because that can in fact infuriate a reviewer and eventually you can get rejection whoever you are. So it's much better to be polite, and sometimes there could be other issues that the reviewers bring when the comments are made. In that case, you have to tactically handle those things. Like, well, I agree with this point. Thank you for your insight. And, this is a nice thing you brought, but this is actually not related to this particular topic because our focus is this one. So this is the way to divert a particular negative point or comment. So replying to the reviewers is also a skill. Things you must avoid. Do not put an issue that you have no knowledge. If you have knowledge, then link, otherwise leave. Never try to prove your proposal as the best unless you are really solid on your ground. But without diminishing your success stories, talk about some critical aspects and negative issues about your observation as well. And do not leave any portion that needs citation. Like for instance, if you wrote a sentence that in this proposal, we will be using that other proposal and there's no citation, then this gives negative point. Never show off to the reviewers once you get conditional acceptance. And there is one thing that you have to know as an author, you have also your right. In fact, in one case, this is a practical case in my life, that one reviewer rejected the paper, other reviewer accepted the paper. Then the decision from the EIC was rejection. So basically, I asked the uh, rationale, and my point was either of the reviewers is wrong. So how can my rejection can be given based on the rejection decision? Yes, the EIC can still give because that could be the journal's policy. If one rejection is there, then the paper is rejected. Or if the rationale is not there, like for instance, you got some acceptance and some comments, and the one simply rejection, there is no comment of 1 or 2 lines, then you can challenge. And this is also the author's right. Eventually, the EIC would decide, and they are given the roles for their judgment quality, and based on that, they hold different roles. There could be corrupt EICs as well. So this is a fact in the world. But one thing is sure: whenever you get one rejection, definitely that paper will be rejected. And some journals require all acceptances, otherwise they don't accept. So you have to know these rules and regulations, whatever quality you target. And we are at the end, especially for this presentation. I just give you some other perspective that in our field we say bona fide experts say, and we do. For instance, if somebody comes up with the idea that we have to build a wheel for a car, somebody tries with a stick that doesn't go round, so increase the number of sides, and eventually you come up with this idea that it should be rounded or whatever, and for that wheel that can be rolled. This entire thing you don't have to do because this is already done. So take it as your building block. You don't have to come from the scratch. This is one issue. Sometimes you can simply bring other topic, cite that, and use for your work. You don't have to go through all those details. You just refer and say that that particular bona fide expert or somebody who is reliable said that, and we can simply rely on that. But sometimes you can have your own complex idea, like this, for instance. They are using all types of things. The triangle is there, circle, and whatever you see, all these shapes and things are there. And even if you have a very unfamiliar terrain, for instance, here's an idea from screw. This is the Archimedes screw, and this is for off-road, like very like this swampy area. The wheel style is different. You can watch the YouTube video with this name. And this is another idea. Wheel cannot be only circle and triangle and that kind of thing. Wheel can be also like this. So depending on your situation, you have to build your thing based on the previous ideas and based on your terrain. You have to find out a solution. Sometimes defying even the experts. That's the thing that measures the quality. And if you come up with some revolutionary idea, even the experts would nod to you that yes, this is something that we never thought about. So that's the essence of quality. And make sure the psychological issues are also addressed. Be bold in your claim. Rejection doesn't mean that your work has no good quality. What I tell my students that take this approach that the journal is wrong, you are right. That could be also one approach that you think that you actually did the right thing, and try and try again. And yes, it happens that the personal credentials, your current status, so-called name, fame, that can also push down a paper, even if this is a bad quality or not so good quality. This is the reality of life. So if possible, try to get first some qualifications, following all these things, and then go for the next one. Eventually that will be easier. If not easier, then try again. And this is the view that you can also remember, that this is art. And here, even if something is flawed, it can be considered as quality material. So this is my understanding from my career so far. And I have seen a lot of things. Nowadays, I'm holding some editorial roles. And this thing I can mention is that main thing is this is not just about your academic caliber. This is also the psychology issue, your trial issues. When you see my publications, like 20 publications, there could be 20 other rejections that are inside that nobody have ever seen. So that's the essence of the thing. If you try for anything quality, you know the basics of quality, the indexing, and then try your own mechanism and give it time, and that's it for the quality applications. That those are the key factors. Thank you very much for listening, and I think I completed 1 hour full. So if you have any question after this, you can also email me if somebody has any question, and that's it from my side. Thank you very much. Is there any question and answer session?
Any participant want to ask any question? So kindly you have to put it in the chat box. Dear participants.
Okay, if there is no question, then this is fine, and it's okay if somebody emails
Thank you
me.
so much, sir.
Uh,
Thank you so much. This as
okay,
and every participant is saying thank you and informative session. And
okay,
you said everything they are clear. Thank you, sir.
okay. Thank you very much.